I had this knee op last year, and I had to go with crutches. So I walked out with the crutches, got in the car, my wife took me home, and I had my mom's walker there, because my mom had this walker, last days. And so my mom's walker was there, and I thought, I'll put the crutches aside and I use this walker. It was easier to manage instead of having these things under your arm, just add this walker. And the walker's still standing there. So it stands in my my bedroom. So I don't need it. I only use it for about 2-3 days. But there I was using my mom's walker. So yeah, there's a lot of memories in the house about that.
So we're told to be successful, something has to be sacrificed. So in terms of cricket, what has cricket taken from your family, and what has it given your family?
Yeah, look, in my case, sorry. Yeah, so I played all my cricket, well, most of my cricket in the apartheid era. So, cricket was, or sport back then was recreational. It wasn't, we weren't getting paid for, like the professionals today. So, a lot of time and effort I gave a lot of time and effort to my sport, football and cricket. And it didn't really impact too much on my family life because, we weren't traveling a lot. And it's only really when, after unity, it became, I was playing provincial cricket, but it was only really when I started coaching that it impacted a lot more on my family life. And being with the Proteas for almost 9 years was impacted quite a lot on my family life. So it's not an easy. I know that's what every young cricketer aspires to be, a Protea, and enjoy the glamour of being an international cricketer. And it is I sometimes think it's a fake life, but it is a glamorous life, and if you are successful, but it does impact on your social and family life. There were times when we were away for, if you tour England and Australia back then, it was a full test series of 4 matches, 5 ODIs and 5 T20s. You were away for almost 2 months. And there's a small window that the families join you. So they come in probably for about 2 weeks. So there's a lot of the time that, it was more of my coaching than playing. But obviously being with players, I see the same. There's a lot of them having young families. And fortunately I was, when I was coaching with the Proteas, my family basically grown up. So didn't impact too much on other than not seeing my wife for long periods of time.
Yeah. And if we take a step back, way back, to your younger days, who were you trying to impress back then?
Yeah, look, it was, wasn't really, I was just trying to do the best that I could possibly do as a footballer and a cricketer. I was fortunate that I was blessed with talent, but also played with some amazing people who made me look a lot better than I was, especially with football. I mean, you should know. But cricket was a strange way in my introduction to cricket. So I wasn't really. I saw cricket, I bowled a bit, and it was only really when my neighbours, Adib Abrams and Aslam Khalant, moved in across the road from me that I was introduced really to club cricket, and it really took off from that. And but yeah, look, all I just wanted to do be whatever I did, whether I was playing cricket, football, volleyball, clever just you wanted to just be the best at whatever you. I just always wanted to be the best, and so so that was me. I didn't really want to impress anybody. So, and I came from a football family, and drove me there. So that was it was good to have that around me, that support structure around me. I didn't have a cricket support structure because my mom and dad didn't really know much about cricket. I mean, they were deep in football and baseball, and softball. So, yeah.
So you mentioned obviously Deep Abrams and the football. You know that's a big part of your life, and that's something maybe I want to get back to later as we're chatting. But before we get there, you know, you stay with the childhood, growing up, you know, in Wynberg on the streets, whether it was soccer, cricket, whatever it is, and maybe it was through your mom, through your dad. What is something that people don't know about you, about your childhood that shaped you and made you the man you are today?
Yeah, and look, I think my parents played a big role in that, and they at the time obviously were heavily involved in. My dad was playing as a young, so I watched my dad play. I mean, he was playing for Batswood, and my mom was quite heavily involved in the club as well. So, and they basically their entire lives they were involved with Batswood. So I had that support structure back home. You know, I mean, I was taken to the club as a 6-year-old, and there wasn't under 10s back then. You know, so you're under 12, you can only play under 12, and there was no substitutes back then. So, you know, you come to a game and you don't play, the next week, because I'm obviously a lot smaller than. I was always tall though, but I was a lot smaller than the other under 12s, and eventually, you know, started complaining to my dad, like, you know, when do I get to go here? You know, because I go every week to the field and I don't play. And the one thing he said, which stuck with me forever, was when you get that opportunity to play, make sure they can't drop you after that. And I waited for that. So, and I think that was very important to me as a youngster. I lived in a home that the values was strong, and I felt I was brought up in the right way, especially by my mom. And like I said, I mean, although I think my mom only watched me play cricket once, and that was in it was in a Legends game, well, a Masters tournament, when I was now almost 40 years old. So, we were playing in the Masters tournament. I think it's the first time my mom ever watched me. So, as a cricketer, but if you sit in a company and there's people around, it sounds like she invented the game, you know, and she would talk about cricket as if she was involved all her life. But yeah, look, I mean, that was my mom. But like I said, I was just fortunate I had that type of support at home.
Yeah, and then you mentioned both your mom and your dad. Tell me about the relationship with your mom and your dad? Like you said, she only came when you were in your 40s to watch your first game. Like, who were you more close with your dad, with your mom, and then why?
No, my mom. My mom, I was obviously a lot closer to my mom. My mom was the hard taskmaster in the house, and I think in most households back in our communities, where the mom is always the sort of driving force. And yeah, I was a lot closer to my mom. My dad passed away sort of just as I was sort of ending my career as a cricketer. And then, you know, basically still, you know, I had my mom around me, and a lot of things that happened in my life back then, you know, and so she was still there for that support, and I needed it. There was a period we went through my life where it was pretty dark, you know, and when I say dark, I'm not talking. I'm saying, yeah, I'm not proud of it, and there she was, you know, she just gave me all the support I needed and got me back on my feet, and I think a couple of months later, I got offered to coach full time at Western Province, and funny enough, it wasn't long after my father passed away that I got this offer at Western Province. I applied for the position and was appointed as assistant coach at Western Province, but also ran youth cricket. So that was quite cool, and that was basically the start of my coaching career.
So you mentioned your mom was like the hardcore, like most moms are on the Cape Flats. They the rock, and obviously she would have given you a lot of responsibility, like be responsible. And you know, what did responsibility look like in the house?
Yeah, look, I mean, I've got a brother and sister in the house as well. So, you know, my father not being around was, you know, I had to play that role as well. You know, with they still complain today about how I bullied them, but I didn't bully them. It was ensuring that, you know, mom wasn't around, then, you know, I'd make sure that they were okay.
like you mentioned, she was a mom for many others.
Yeah.
The privilege of having her as the mom. I mean, for me and my young brother personally, we lived around the corner from you guys. So on my way here to the studio, I was trying to I was thinking about her, and I remembered when we were young, we'd always go to the mosque, Park Road Mosque. So we would walk up the road and pass your house, and then she would always stand there.
Yeah.
Same time. She know what time is Maghrib. She knows if she knows the time of the prayer time. She waits there and she makes sure we go to mosque. Because my mom sent us to mosque and she makes sure that we end up in the mosque.
Yeah.
And she would just stand there. And then she would give us something nice. Or if not, then my mom would give us something to give her. So it was either booba or it was something. So there was always that exchange, to and from. And then she would never forget to say, look at tomorrow's practice. She always remind you, practice, don't be late.
Yeah.
And at the field also, same thing. Tuck in your t-shirt, pull up your socks, the story. And I had the privilege of interviewing her as well for one of the newspapers. I think I was probably the last person to interview her because I never saw any articles after that. So I was probably one of the last persons to interview her. Because I was in the home, I saw all the trophies, your trophies, pictures of your dad. I saw the whole thing. And she would say how she used to walk down to the soccer field and then all the children behind her, like little ducks behind the mommy duck, on the way to the field. And that's one of many things that I can remember from her. Obviously, she and my mom was also close. But what I want to know from you is when you're sitting alone, like in the evening when you're just chilling, enjoying a glass, whatever, and she pops into your mind, what is that one memory that always pops up about her?
Yeah, it's quite interesting because I've got this massive photo. At the funeral, we had this, at the memorial, in fact, because there was a memorial at the district. We had these massive photographs made and for our family. So there's this massive photograph in my lounge, and she gets a morning and good night every night. So every day, and I wake up, it's morning, mom, good night, mom. So yeah, it's quite interesting because my daughter lives in Melbourne. They were so very close, very very close, and so when and there's so many photos around in the house with her and my daughter and the granddaughter. She didn't get to see the other. She didn't get to see the latest grandchild. So, but there's so many photos in my house, and also awards, because once she passed on, everything came to my house. She eventually, because look, both my wife and I were working. We didn't have so she stayed with sort of called a semi-home, which was Royston Little's mom's place. But then we moved everything that she owned to me. So that's still at my house. And now recently we opened some of those boxes, and there's some amazing memories in there. She was also a hoarder. So she kept stuff that why are you keeping these stuff? And looking at it, you become quite emotional about it, because it meant so much to her. But I think that how much the three of us meant to her, and in trying to ensure that she has this quality of life right until the end was it was a sad ending. So it was tough. It was tough to go through those few days. And she passed away on Women's Day, which was quite interesting. And but yeah, look, I do sometimes sit in the lounge, just look around and look at her, and we've got this big piano that used to sit in our house. You were in our house, and all these trophies and awards were on it, and diplomas, and so I've got this big piano in my house. I actually still don't know how it got into the house, because I wasn't at home when it was moved. But anyway, it's there's quite a lot of reminders and memories of my mom in our house, and so I can't. even though, funny enough, I had this knee op last year, and I walked out of the I had to go with crutches, so I walked out with the crutches, got in the car, my wife took me home, and I had my mom's walker there, because my mom had this walker, last days, and so my mom's walker was there, and I thought I'll put the crutches aside and I use this walker. It was easier to manage instead of having these things under your arm, just add this walker, and the walker's still standing there, so it stands in my. It stands in my bedroom. So I don't need it. I only use it for about 2-3 days. But there I was using my mom's walker. So yeah, there's a lot of memories in the house about it.
What was that like when you're using the walker? Were you just like laughing at yourself, thinking, "Oh my word"?
It wasn't there. It was at my sister's house. So on our family group, I said, "Guys, where's the walker?" And my sister said, "It's here at my house. You can come fetch it." So I went to fetch it. And so there's the walker, and I'm walking around. I'm thinking, "This is what mom used to look." When she was by us, a lot of the time I would go fetch her, and she spent a few days with us at home when I was home, because I was based in Pretoria at the time. And she then, she'd use this, but a lot of the time, because when she walked out of the room to go to the toilet, it's, she'd just put her hands against the wall, so she'd walk without the walker. But most times she would walk. I'll never forget this Christmas Eve. We'd gone to bed, and she was with us. My wife and I had gone to bed, and I was lying in bed. It was now it's now the 25th, just turned the 25th, and I heard this walker coming down the passage, and then the next thing I looked up, and we were going to sleep now, and I looked up, and there's my mom standing with this walker. Merry Christmas. so yeah, look, I've got unbelievable memories of my mom. I mean, she was hard on us as well, so she really wanted us to be, not only good sportsmen, but good people. And I learned so much from her. We went to, some of the things she did was unbelievable, really. And we were trying to figure out, Mom, what are you trying to do here? We went to the Coon Carnival the one year, and it was hot in Cape Town. And we were walking with her, and the next thing is a lady fainted. The next thing, she's the first person, and that's what she was. I was the first person to got tissues out, gave her water, and we going, Mom, it's hard. I mean, for every person is going to faint, or you're going to be there. But that was her, she was just an amazing woman.
Yeah. You mentioned so many lessons that she taught you. What would you say is one of those lessons that you would want to carry on, and maybe something that you have taught your daughter that you learned from your mom?
Yeah. No, look, I mean, I think that, there's so many. I think that, what she tried to instill in all of us was, like I said, it's, she never stood in the way of our ambitions of wanting to be, top sportsman. My brother was a footballer as well, good footballer, and baseballer. I mean, a provincial baseballer as well. Sister played provincial softball. She never stood in the way. She actually encouraged us to that, but knowing that she wanted us to remain humble, and it's something that I really, I've always felt that was going to be a big part of me. Stay as humble as possible, and whether successful, whether there's failure, something that, and yeah, look, I'm not a drinker or smoker, and it's something that she also she sort of preached in the house, don't smoke, don't drink. So, but it wasn't because of that. That was probably part of it, but it wasn't because of that I didn't really take a liking to smoking or drinking. It was more because I didn't see the reason to do it, or I didn't want it to impact on my life in later stages. So it's just that's what some of the. But yeah, look, it's there's so many, like I said, there's so many lessons, and I'm eternally grateful to what my mom to my mom.
Yeah. So yeah, when things came your way where you had to become a dad, you know, can you take us back to that day when you became a dad? What was that like? What were you feeling? Were you scared? Take us back to that exact day when you held your daughter for the first time.
Yeah, look, it was quite a it was quite a traumatic experience actually, because what had happened was my wife was pregnant, and she was going through this. She was in quite a lot of pain, and yeah, so that they sort of accelerated the because they felt that she had to have this cesarean birth. So they accelerated the whole process, and she was in so much pain, and I was there and rubbing her back, and because she was going through this, and then she had to, and then she went into labor and went into to have the baby. I wasn't allowed to go in, so I waited outside, and the board, and until the doctor came and said, "Mr. Barnes, you're the father of a beautiful daughter," and all I wanted to do was see this young baby. So because I wasn't allowed to go go close, because she was still in incubation. So I could from a distance, and so she was lying in this incubation thing there, and then there was this glass. I had to stand outside it, so from a distance I could only see her. See, and I was just looking at this miracle. Wow. I mean, that's my daughter, and it's quite interesting how she's given birth to 3 kids, and now last year to a 3rd grandchild, and yeah, look, I mean, again, you as a father, you want to just carry on that legacy that my mom, this is the way I got brought up. It wasn't always a smooth, I went through some tough periods, some hard periods, and in my life. So, but a lot of lessons learned from it. So, yeah, there I was now dad, and just couldn't wait to hold this young girl in my arms, and one of the highlights of my life, really. Nothing can compare to that experience of just holding your daughter. We've got now 3 grandkids as well. Held them in my arms too. So, just what a wonderful experience. Yeah.
So of course, you've traveled the world. You've won many trophies, and then you have the birth of your daughter. Like, how do you compare the experiences, and what was the feeling like?
No, there's no comparison. You actually, yeah. Look, it's quite an interesting thing that you just said. Now, we've had I always believe the euphoria of winning lasts a split second, and why I say that is because, when when a winning run is scored, or you score a winning goal and a referee blows a final whistle, there's a lot of excitement and euphoria, but it lasts basically only a few seconds, and thereafter everything slows down, and everything you start sinking in and stuff like that. But the euphoria of it, jumping on people and holding people, and because you've won a game and or a trophy, or that basically lasts a few seconds, and you can't really compare it to childbirth. I mean, you're looking at your child from a distance, and just sitting down and just being amazed that it lasts forever. Because I mean, I've never forget that day, and yeah, it just can't compare to. Nothing compares to it. I mean, I'm talking about if we take in consideration the trophies, prizes, whatever it was that I won, can't compare to that.
So I have 2 daughters now, and so for me, with my 6-year-old, I can see like certain things from my mom in her, like maybe how she socializes, how she's easy to make friends, how she's confident, how she's sporty. There's certain things I can see. What are some of those things that you can see from your mom that you see now in your daughter?
Yeah, quite a lot. What had happened back? I mean, my daughter went to school just down the road, St. Augustine's, was just around the road from the primary school, was just around the corner. So my mom would take her to school and go and pick her up and bring her home, and then she spend the rest of the day until we pick her up, to take her home. So that period was, that's what I'm saying. They spent. I mean, the two of them had this amazing relationship, and that's where, a lot of. I mean, I know how close they were. She's probably the closest, other than her three kids. My daughter, and that's one of the closest people in my daughter's life. She was, unfortunately, when my mom passed on, it was quite sudden, and she couldn't make it to the funeral. So, but she sent us, and so I did this eulogy for my mom at the funeral, but I couldn't read. She sent a message for me to read at the funeral, but I couldn't. I actually asked Debbie to do that because there was no ways that I could read it. It was far too emotional, and but that's everything in that message, and I still got it. Is just took me back to their relationship, and I know how close they were. Fortunately, it was streamed so they could watch from Australia, but it was such a deep, strong message, and like I said, I couldn't. I actually tried at home, while I was working on my eulogy. I tried to, but I only would get through the first paragraph, and I couldn't. So, but it was quite, like I said, it was quite emotional, but it just gave us all, that just a reminder of how important my mom was to her, and I can see just being with them. We were in Australia last year. I spent almost a month there. You can just see a lot of my mom in my daughter, in the way she's brought up their kids, the way she's looked after herself, the way she's looked after her household and family. A lot of my mom is there, and which is so cool. And I've said this to my wife. There's so much of my mom in my daughter, and she was. Looks, I always felt she was brought up properly, and she's quite strong. So yeah, there's a lot there.
So you talk about the eulogy that she wrote, and obviously your wife, you said she read it out on the day. You would have obviously listened to the entire,
Yeah, look, I was standing next to her. I had to do this eulogy, and it got to a point where, and then Debbie came up. So I knew that there was no ways I could read. I mean, just reading this, I could see the reaction in the audience. I mean, the people in church, the congregation. I could sense that. I could just see that how it affected them all deeply, and some of the comments after this was, wow, I mean, that was amazing. But like I said, it was simply because there was this relationship which I knew was they had all sorts of funny words that, between the two of them, they knew what it meant. But it was, yes, and they called each other funny. I mean, she called my mom May, and she's now called the third grandchild is Zoe May, after my mom. So yeah, so it was. So she and my mom called her my sweetie pie. So sweetie pie is always the word being used, and I mean all the two grandchildren that she did share a bit of their lives. They were also their sweetie pies, and yeah. So yeah, but it was quite emotional. Yeah.
If there was one line within that eulogy that really stuck with you, what is that line?
Oh, there's. I think that's what I'm saying. It's just the opening. Just opening, just reading. I can't remember word for word, but just the first paragraph is already just blew me away. I mean, I couldn't. Believe me, I sat with Debbie next to me, and we were sort of practicing my speech, um, and it gets to this part, and I try, and that first few lines of that paragraph, I couldn't. I just couldn't. So I asked Debbie to do it, and it was tough for her too, because she had to read this, and it was quite an emotional message to my mom.
So obviously you had an amazing relationship with your mom and your daughter and your mom. Like there's a clear that your mom is the rock there. What is the relationship like between you and your daughter? How did you manage to, build that?
Yeah. Look, we so my daughter was from my first wife, and we separated. Well, got divorced, and they moved on in their lives, and my ex-wife remarried, and then they moved to the States. So and I think she was about 14, 15 years old, when they moved. So a lot of her teenage life, I only shared via, emails or calls. There wasn't WhatsApps and all these, so that was, so a large part of her life was away from South Africa. And so it was tough because, you wanted to do, there was a lot you needed to do and wanted to do, but I couldn't because, she was so far away, and spent a lot of time, and we'd go over and spend time in the States with them, or she would come to me and spend, school holidays and stuff like that with me. And then she got married, and went to the marriage, and went to the wedding, and then from the States, the two of them moved to Melbourne. I remember the call they gave me. They said, "Dad, we're looking to move to Melbourne. What are your thoughts?" And I just wanted to know why, and they gave me their thoughts, and he got a job in Melbourne. And I said, if there was one city that I would live in other than Cape Town, is Melbourne. Whenever we toured there, I really enjoyed Melbourne. I just felt it's so similar to Cape Town. Everything about it, just the way of life, the weather is very similar to Cape Town. So, I said, it's a wonderful place to live in, but you got to understand, you're so far away from everyone now. Your mom's still in the States, and I'm in Cape Town, and so we communicate. It's still tough. Obviously, we want to would like to see them more often than we can, but that's the life they chose. They're enjoying the quality of life in Australia. I know my son-in-law would love to be living in Cape Town. He loves Cape Town. He's always talking about Cape Town, and even 2 days ago, how's it going? And I said, I think it's about 35 degrees here at the moment. And so, and the times that they've been here, they were here a year and a half ago, which was quite cool. So it's tough at the moment. But she's brought up, the way that our soul is similar to, I can see so much of my mom in the way, in her mannerisms, the character, the way she is. A lot of my mom's in there.
She left around about when she was 15. How did you get through that period? How did you cope with, she's been there, now she's gone, and that's your daughter, and you just said it's like, it was the best moment of your life when you saw her for the first time and you held her, and then she was gone.
Yeah, no, look what's tough. The situation was, my ex-wife had remarried, and her husband had now got a job in the States, and I was basically standing in the way of him getting the job. The reason why I say that is because I could have refused. I could have said, no, I want my daughter to stay here, But I fully understood as a family what they needed to do and what they wanted to do. So, I wasn't going to stand. I understand the fallout of them leaving was obviously going to affect me seeing my daughter, because I saw her almost every day, because she stayed, all the time, other than with her mom. She was my mama, so I saw her almost every day. And now, and obviously whenever available, she spent a lot of time with us as well. So now it meant that, away they go, and I don't get to see them that often. Communication was now going to be different. So it was quite a tough decision, but I also understood, as a family, they needed that in their lives. And so yeah, it was a tough decision, but the decision, I probably felt that I had to agree to it, that, let them move to the States.
How did you get through that? How did you keep it all together?
Yeah, look, I think, it's, I think what does help is, is my wife is, Debbie, we had now married, and and all, it was difficult for both of us, because Debbie had a relationship with my daughter as well, quite a good relationship, and they still do. The two of them can chat away for hours, and so it was affecting her too. They had become quite close as well. But look, it's not a great experience, but it's a decision that we had to make. We felt that, and it was whenever we could. Like I said, whenever there was, especially the long holidays, she would come over. As a young girl, to come and travel on her own, and it wasn't. To be honest, it wasn't a great period to deal with, as a father. But look, like I said, it's, I had to live with it, because, those were some of the decisions that I made in my life was not the greatest. And some of the consequences thereof was that. I got divorced, and, it was a quite a terrible period in my life. It was probably 3-4 years, which wasn't great. And I was going through a tough period. It was affecting my sport as well, funny enough. But got through it, and like I said, I had the support of Debbie, and just restarted. But it was, look, and I still, last week we were on FaceTiming, on video calling with the kids, and my grandson is soccer mad. That's all he talks about. Whenever I see him, he's kicking a ball, or all the photos, he's got a ball in his hand, or he's got his Haaland shirt on, or his Bellingham shirt on, or he's crazy about football. So when we were there now last year, and he doesn't understand that I'm over 60 now. He seems to think that every day is football day. So we either go to the park and we play, or in their backyard, and it's tough, because I've had a knee that I'm recovering on, and but I had operation on. So but look, I really wanted to. I did it because I really wanted it. There's a lot that he could learn from me as a footballer. I've got to teach him, not only as a footballer, but life generally. But he's got to understand that you're not going to always win. I was a winner. That's all I wanted to do, was to win. But you got to understand that life doesn't always work that way. You're going to have bad days, and there are going to be games that you're going to lose, and you got to deal with that. And he's got to understand that. So some of the life lessons as well was too important on team as well, just so that he gets an understanding of it. But they're a good family. I can see the kids are being brought up in a good home, and with good values as well.
If you look back, any regrets? Would you change anything? Those big decisions.
Look, I don't think. I think even in the darker days of my life, I think that there's so many lessons when you come out of that, you know that that's not a place you want to go again. You don't want to get yourself into a place like that. So as a sportsman, I've got absolutely no regrets. What I've achieved, what I've done, if I look back on it and I go, would I have done anything different? No, I wouldn't. Sorry. Playing sport back, I mean, you watched us play football. But I mean, just most of my sport was, cricket was almost self-taught. I didn't get coached as a cricketer. We had good people around us, coaches, managers around us, to ensure that we could get the best out of us, and obviously in a disciplined environment. I got an opportunity to go and play cricket overseas, which was almost perfect for me. I was probably at the height of my career at the time, and I felt that what I wanted to do was to coach cricket, because nobody was coaching anyone. We basically I sat in the provincial team. I made my debut when I was 17 years old, and I sat in this room and I marveled at some of the cricketers in this, because these guys were my heroes, and just listening to them talk about the game, and that is where probably I learned most about myself and cricket, and obviously the advice offered to me from these great cricketers. That's where. But I felt that we never had a coach that we can say, today you look at Shukri's got about 10, 12 people around him at the moment. That's his team and his support staff and the national team. And even when I was with the Proteas, we had like about 10 people around, and each had a specific role. And as me as a bowling coach, and we had a batting coach and fielding coach. And, we had all these analysts and whatever. And so as a young cricketer, I was never coached, football, yeah, but never as a cricketer, and I felt that I wanted to. So this gave me an opportunity to, playing overseas, gave me an opportunity to do the coaching courses. Because I had heard from one of the cricketers that was playing overseas, then why don't you apply to do this coaching course with me, which I did. So I did the first coaching. The following year I went back, did it the second one. And so when I came back, I was playing cricket in Scotland. When I came back, we started a coaching structure. I got Shukri involved, Faik Davids, and so that we could get some sort of coaching, regional coaching in Cape Town, split them up, and we'd each coach a sort of a region in Cape Town, so that we now, and that was, I helped them also to understand how group coaching works and how individual coaching works, and so I put the structure together here, and started with this process of getting coaching done, at clubs and schools, because we didn't have anything, and basically people were just helping, and so yeah, and that's where the coaching started, and but that's what I wanted to do from my early 20s already. I started quite late as a cricketer. I only started when I was 13 years old. Deep introduced me to cricket, and I took him to Batswood. I said, "So what position do you play?" And he said, "I used to be a goalkeeper, but I'm a striker now." So we took him to Batswood. They asked me, "Where does he play?" I said, "He's a goalkeeper." So he said, "No, I'm not a goalkeeper. I mean, the rest is history. I mean, he became one of the best goalkeepers I've ever seen." So, yeah. So I mean, it's, if I look back in my life, there's, what I've done and what I've achieved. I'm grateful, that I was given opportunities, that I had unbelievable people around me playing cricket and football. I mean, a lot of the footballers, and I was chatting to Adip yesterday about how the game has evolved, the football game has evolved. But when I look at tactically and how people set up, and they talk about the way teams are set up with a 4-5-1 or 4-4-2 or 4-3-3, and we played a 4-4-3-3, and how we evolve, our game changed from week to week without. In fact, in the game, the whole setup would change. I mean, we would go. We need to counter. We need to attack more. We would push. Vinny would push further forward. Because most of my career I played right back. Will you push further forward and play 3 at the back? And then everybody say, why are they playing 3 at the back? Today they talk about 3 defenders. I know the Manchester United boss, he got hammered for playing 3 defenders. But look, the fortunate thing, and this is what I said to Adib yesterday, I had I knew my role. So did he. I knew my role. But what is important is the support around me. I mean, Cliffy, and probably one of the best footballers Cape has ever seen, playing in front of me. Roy Little to my left, Ian Southgate, these guys. Gerald Mentor, number 1 goalie in the world, is behind me. But we had a role to play. But it didn't just fall on us. We were guided, as to how to play different systems. And like I said, I was fortunate to play with so many great footballers, and also fortunate to play with so many great cricketers who taught me so much about cricket, so that I could eventually. And then you find out your own thing. You find out certain things about yourself. Why is the ball doing that? What is the? I remember talking to Ghulam Ali about reverse swing. We didn't know what that was. I was going I've always been taught that if the rough side of the ball is on the inside, the ball will swing that way, and if you turn it around, then the ball should swing that way. But now the ball was swinging in the opposite direction. The rough side was this side, but the ball was going that way. So for years I kept quiet because I didn't know what it was. I knew what to do. I knew to get the ball in that condition, but I didn't understand the science behind it. And I remember talking to Ghulam Ali at his shop there in Wynberg, and I'm saying, Ghulam, what do you think about this? What is this actually? And Ghulam says, we've been doing this for years, and we don't understand the science of it, but we know what to do. And we didn't call it reversing. We didn't even have a name for it. But I remember playing in my first provincial game, and I got told, Leicester Lighty, you had 3 overs. You don't take a wicket, you're off, which happened. Both 3 overs didn't take a wicket. Wild and woolly, running in, 17-year-old, playing against EP, against great EP side. 3 overs, no runs. 3 overs, no wickets for 6 runs. And the ball got taken away from me. I didn't bowl again in second innings, same thing, Lighty. And then I got a second spell in the second innings. And I had no control of this ball. I mean, this ball is big. I mean, I had the ball in my hand, which was pink on the one side and red on the other side. And I had no control of this. And I didn't know what it was. I mean, the ball was swinging all over the place. And, so things like that, I got to teach myself. I didn't know what it was, but like I'm saying, it's just going back to some of the great sportsmen, that I played with at Batswood, at my club, Victoria. I later moved to Montrose. We had such an unbelievable Montrose team. And obviously the provincial sides, football and cricket was, some of the footballers I played with was phenomenal. Mm.
So you mentioned quite a lot about Adib and Batswood and my dad. You also played with you. What are some of, we don't have a lot of time left, but what are some of your best memories with Batswood?
My memories with Batswood is still memories. Today is the club's junior and senior function. So I'll go down there to the field to go and spend some time there. My relationship with the club at the moment is still, I know Adib and Alan, and they're quite heavily involved as president and chairman. My role at the moment is trying to support as much as I can, but also going to watch almost every week if I can. But yeah, I mean, your dad was. I'm going to see him. I'll probably see him this afternoon, And a couple of weeks' time is my birthday. I'm going to get all the boys again to come and spend some time with me, which we enjoy. We meet once a month where we have this breakfast, and we try to get as many of our boys together. I'm also planning, and I've spoken to some of the guys about it, I'm planning to do a full reunion of the entire sort of that 80s period where we dominated football, local football. We want to try to get a full reunion of that whole 80s, right up to the point where they turned pro, where we can get all these guys together and just sit together one evening and have a good old laugh. And but yeah, that's look. I'm fortunate and I'm privileged to have. Look, I had sporting ability and I played it at the good level. But I'm eternally grateful to the type of people that was that played with me and around me. I mean, today they're my lifelong friends, and we speak every morning. We greet every morning and say goodnight. And these are, guys like Adip who's become very, very close to me. And so yeah, it's just not only just the sport. It's what the friendship that developed, and today we're still very good friends.
Yeah, cool. Thanks.